Fine students, I feel you all understood the previous chapters and today we are going to do the continuation part of third chapter, that is money and banking in macroeconomics. Isn't it students? You have studied the previous portions of that chapters. Okay. So, in that the continuing part, so first we will take about the reserve requirements. Reserve requirements. Requirements of reserves acts as a limit to money or credit creation of the banks. Okay. Reserve requirements we call it as. Okay. The Reserve Bank of India decides certain percentage of deposits which should be kept with the bank without lending it out, without spending it. Okay. So, this is decided by the Reserve Bank of India. This is called as reserve requirements. Okay. So, Reserve Bank of India fixes this requirements. Okay. So, this is a legal binding. Okay. Every bank must keep certain percentage of their deposits without spending, without lending it out. The objective of this reserve requirement is the thing, the commercial banks should not lend more loans, okay, over a limit. There should be limit on lending the loans by the commercial banks. That is why the Reserve Bank fixes the reserve requirements. Okay. And this is the legal requirement binding on all the banks. Okay. So, there are two types of reserve requirements which is decided by the Reserve Bank of India. Okay. So, two types, one is CRR, that is cash reserve ratio, other one is SLR. So, what you mean by CRR students? Cash reserve ratio, that portion of the deposits of the commercial banks which has to be kept with the Reserve Bank of India. That portion of the deposits of the commercial bank which has to be kept with the central bank or reserve bank. That percentage may be 10%, 6%, 5% or 20%, that will be fixed by the Reserve Bank of India. Other one is SLR, okay, statutory liquidity ratio, we call it as statutory liquidity ratio. What do you mean this? That portion of the deposits of the commercial banks which has to be kept with the itself. Okay. That portion of the total deposits of the commercial banks which has to be kept with the itself, we call it. Okay. So, both this CRR and SLR together we call it as a reserve requirements. Okay. So, this reserve, when the reserve requirement increases, okay, it is increased by the Reserve Bank of India, money supply in the economy will be controlled. We will see how this reserve requirement puts a limit to credit creation of the banks. Okay. So, we will explain with the help of an example. Okay. So, here this reserve requirement shows how money can be multiplied by the banks. At the same time, it also shows how the reserve requirements puts a limit to credit creation of commercial banks. You see, credit creation by the commercial banks. Okay. So, for example, you assume that there is only one bank in the economy. What is that students? There is only one bank in the economy, okay, in bank in a country, okay, and that bank starts with 100 rupees deposits. That bank starts with 100 rupees of deposit, and that 100 rupees is deposited by Mr. X. What is that? Mr. X comes to the bank and deposits rupees 100 in the bank, okay. Suppose the reserve requirements including both CRR and SLR, if it is 20%, 20% should be kept with the without lending, okay. So if the reserve requirement is 20%, so the 20 required reserve is 20 out of 100, 20% in the sense that is rupees 20. The bank will get only 80 rupees to lend it out to the people as a loan, okay. So this bank, what it will do, it will lend rupees 80 to Mr. Y as a loan, rupees 80 to Mr. Y as a loan, okay. Mr. Y, it will be that 80 rupees will be in the saving accounts of Mr. Y. So that is why the second round, the total deposits of this bank is rupees 180. How it is? 100 rupees initial deposit and 80 rupees of Mr. Y, okay, who is taken as a loan and kept it in the bank, okay. So that is 180 rupees, okay. So again the bank must keep 20% of that 180 rupees as a reserve, okay. So what is the 20% of this 180 rupees, okay? That is rupees 36, okay, rupees 36, okay. 20% of 180 rupees is 36 rupees, that is a required reserve, okay. First you remind the students, the bank has started with only 100 rupees. The bank is having money only 64 rupees to lend it out. That means 100 minus 36, that is 64. It's not 180 minus 36, it's 100 minus 36, because the initial deposit is only 100 rupees. This 80 rupees is created by the bank as multiplier, okay. So 100 minus 36, that is 64, okay. So this 64 rupees will be lent by the bank to Mr. Z as a loan, okay, and Mr. Z keeps it in the bank. So the total deposit of the commercial bank will be 244. What is it? 180 plus 64, that is 244, okay. Out of this 244, if you deduct 20%, okay, what is the 20%? That is 48 rupees. 20% of 244, that is 48 rupees, okay. And what the amount the bank will get to lend it to the people, so that is not 224 minus 44, that is 100 minus 44, that is 52 rupees, okay. That is 52 rupees. That 52 rupees the bank will get to lend it to the people as a loan, okay. The process continues like this, students. The process continues like this, students. And at the last you will see when the required reserve is 100 equal to initial deposit. When the required reserve is equal to this initial deposit in the bank, okay, the total deposit in the bank will be 100 and the loan made by the bank will be, total will be 400 rupees. 400, you see, 100 plus 400 is equal to 500. So this is how money will be multiplied by the banks, okay. So that is, you see, students, the balance sheet of the bank, you see, can see the balance sheet of the bank, you see, asset side and liability side. So in the asset side, reserves, okay, reserves, this reserves, see 100 rupees, okay, 100 rupees, deposits, initial deposits 400 and plus this, initial deposit 100 plus 400 is equal to 500. Okay, loans given by the bank, that is 400, okay, 400 and you see the total, okay, 100 plus 400 500 and its total deposit is 500. Okay, the bank's balance sheet will be like this. Okay, so if you see the money multiplier, how money is multiplied by the banks, you see the formula of money multiplier is 1 by the percentage of reserve requirements, that is 1 by 20% equal to 1 by 0.2, that is equal to 5. Okay, is equal to 5. So, reserve of rupees 100, initial reserve of rupees 100 created deposits, okay, created deposit 5 times more, isn't it, 5 times more, that is 5 into 100, that is rupees 500. So, this example bank shows how money is multiplied or credit is created by the banks. The open market operation. Okay. So, what is the meaning of open market operation? Open market operation is a tool of Reserve Bank of India to control money supply in the economy. What is that? Open market operation is a tool used by the Reserve Bank of India to control money supply in the economy. So, open market operation, in the sense the Reserve Bank of India buys and sells government bonds and securities through open market. Reserve Bank of India buys and sells government bonds and securities through open market. Okay. So, these are the bonds and securities of the government, but Reserve Bank buys and sells it on behalf of the government. Okay. So, that is about open market operation. So, when the Reserve Bank buys government bonds and securities, it buys after paying checks, okay, after paying it through checks. So, when the checks are paid to the public, okay, when the checks are paid to the public, it increases the money supply in the economy. It increases the money supply in the economy. So, in the same way, in open market operation, when the Reserve Bank sells bonds and securities of the government, it takes checks from the public, okay, takes checks from the public. So, that means money which is in the hands of the public goes to the Reserve Bank of India. The money which was in the hands of public will be reduced. That is how the money supply in the economy will be curbed. Okay. So, that we call it as injection and absorption of money. Okay. So, when it is injection of money, when the Reserve Bank, okay, when the Reserve Bank buys this one, okay, buys when the Reserve Bank buys government securities, okay, it pays check, that is injection of money to the public, and its absorption of money when it sells the government bonds. Okay. And this open market operation, okay, are of two types. One is outright and other one is repo. Okay. What is this outright operation? Okay. In this type of operation, open market operation, the it is permanent in nature, in the sense, okay, when the government buys, okay, when the government buys bonds and securities of the government, it without any promising, okay, it buys without any promising for after selling it, okay, without any promise to sell it later, okay. So that is a permanent. In the same way, when the Reserve Bank sells the government bonds and securities, it sells without any promise to buy it or repurchase it later, okay. So that is what is the injection of money while buying and absorption of money while selling the government is permanent in nature. Whatever it is permanent in nature. Injection of money to the public, in the sense when the Reserve Bank of India buys the government bonds, money goes to the people, that is injection of money. Whatever it is, okay, it is permanent in nature. The other one is repo, what we call it as a repo, okay. So repo, this is the other form of open market operation. In this case, Reserve Bank of India buys bonds and securities of the government after an agreement, okay, after an agreement for sell it to in the later period or a particular time and particular price is given, okay. So that is called repo, okay. When the Reserve Bank buys government securities, it buys with an agreement of selling it later, okay, selling it, what the interest rate is fixed at that time, okay, while lending. The interest rate, that rate is called as a repo rate. We call it as a repo rate. Repo rate is the rate at which commercial banks lends to the public, okay. Other one is reverse repo, what we call as a reverse repo. So same way, when the Reserve Bank sells government bonds and securities with an agreement of repurchasing it on later time, repurchasing it after a particular time, okay. The particular time and price will be fixed, okay. So that price or that rate of interest is called as a reverse repo rate, reverse repo. In case of repo, there is a repo rate and reverse repo rate. Repo rate while buying the government bonds, reverse repo rate while selling the government bonds and securities. That is maturity period of selling it back or repurchasing it back. That will be for 1 day or 7 days or like that, 7 days or a week. It is like the maturity period will be like that, okay. So next bank rate. So this is also one more tool of the Reserve Bank of India to control credit in the economy. So control money supply in the economy, okay. So bank rate is the rate at which the Reserve Bank lends loans to the commercial banks, okay. So how we borrow loans from the commercial bank, same way commercial banks borrow loans from Reserve Bank of India, okay. So that is when the bank rate is increased, if the Reserve Bank increases the bank rate, that is a discouragement to the commercial banks to borrow more and more funds from the Reserve Bank, okay. So in that way money in the economy will be controlled, okay. When the Reserve Bank increases the rate of interest, money supply in the economy will be controlled, okay. Same way when the Reserve Bank reduces the bank rate, when the Reserve Bank reduces the bank rate. In the sense, the Reserve Bank is lending loans to the commercial banks at a cheaper rate. It means the Reserve Bank is encouraging the commercial banks to take more and more money, more and more funds. Okay, so by decreasing the bank rate, money supply in the economy can be influenced or increased. So that is about bank rate. So next comes the demand for money. What is that demand for money? So money is the most liquid form of asset. Money is most liquid, easy to spend, easy to take, like that. Okay, money is the most liquid form of asset. So it is accepted by all for any type of exchanges. You and me take money and give money. Okay, we accept it for any of the exchanges, isn't it? So that is why money is called a liquid form of asset. Liquid in the sense easy to spend, easy to give it to others, easy to take. Okay, so easy for exchange, we call it as easy for exchange. Okay, any of the transactions. So what are the motives of money? We call it as motives of money. The desire for money to hold cash, that is we call it as motives of holding money. Okay, so demand for money, we call it as liquidity preference. If you demand more money in your hands, that is called as liquidity preference. Okay, liquidity preference. Demand to hold money is called as liquidity preference. Why we desire money? So there are two motives to hold money. So motives to hold money, that means desires to hold money. Why we want to hold money? Okay, so that is one is a transaction motive. Okay, transaction motive, MD4, transaction motive. Okay, MDT, call it as MDT. Okay, transaction motive. So transaction motive of money in the sense people desire to hold money for day to day transactions. Okay, to go to take a transport cost, to buy the food or any other our day to day transactions, we need money. So that is called as a desire to hold money for the transaction purpose. Desire to hold the money for transaction purpose. Okay, everybody is having this motive. Okay, see here, see MDT is equal to KPY. MDT is equal to KPY. Here K is the positive fraction, P is the general price level in the economy, Y is the real GDP. Y is real GDP, P is price level in the economy, K is the positive fraction. Okay, here there is a direct relation, positive relationship between this demand for money for transaction purpose and the general price level and the national income. See, higher the general price level and higher the income, higher will be the demand for money for transaction purposes. Okay, that is about transaction motive of money. Next comes speculative motive. Okay, speculative motive, that is MDS, speculative demand for money. So here some people wants to hold cash, some people wants to hold cash to invest in. Why they want cash? To invest in shares, bonds, debentures, immovable properties, okay, and gold, silver, etc. People want to hold money to all these things. Why they want to get more income in future? Why people buy shares and debentures? To earn more in the future, isn't it? To gain more in the future. Okay, so some people hold cash to invest on shares, debentures, gold, silver, immovable properties, etc. So, to speculate, okay, this is called as a speculative demand for money. Okay, people's demand for money to hold idle cash in order to earn more in future days. Okay, so that is called speculative demand for money. Okay, people's demand to hold idle cash in order to earn more in future. Okay, why they buy the shares? In order to earn more in the future. Why they buy the debentures? In order to get more money in future. Why they buy the gold? In order to get more money in the future. Okay, so that is what speculative demand for money we call it as. So, this speculative demand for money, one second students, see students, this MDS is equal to demand for speculative, or speculative demand for money is equal to R maximum or minus R divided by R minus R minimum. Okay. So, what is that? MDS, speculative demand for money, is equal to R maximum minus R divided by R minus R minimum. Here what is this? R? R is the market rate of interest. R is the market rate of interest. Okay. So, market rate, when R increases, okay, this R decreases from R maximum to R minimum, or increases from R minimum to R maximum, when the rate of interest is increased. When rate of interest is increased, what the people think? People anticipate that in future the rate of interest may fall. In future the rate of interest may fall. So, what they do? They convert all their money. They convert all their money into bonds and securities. When the rate of interest is high, the people expect that in future the rate of interest may fall. So, they convert all their money in the form of bonds and securities. That is why the speculative demand for money is high. Okay, speculative demand for money is high. Okay, so when the rate, the speculative demand for money is low. Okay, when the interest rate is low, when the interest rate is low, the people expect that in future the rate of interest may go increase. Okay, in future the rate of interest may increase. So, that is why they convert all their bonds and securities in the form of money, That is why the speculative demand for money will be high. The speculative demand. So, that means there is a inverse or opposite relationship between rate of interest and speculative demand for money. Okay. When rate of interest is high, the speculative demand for money will be low. Okay. So, people convert all their money into bonds and securities. Okay. When the rate of interest is low, the demand for speculative demand for money is high. Okay. So, that is there is a inverse or opposite relationship between rate of interest and speculative demand for money. This is about demand for money or speculative motive. Next comes the supply of money. Supply of money, various measures. Okay. Various measures. Okay. In a modern economy, in recent years, money consists of what? Money consists of currency notes, okay, and money currency notes supplied by the monetary authority. Okay, notes and coins issued by the monetary authority of India. Okay, that is Reserve Bank of India. Okay. So, what is money supply? Money supply consists of notes and coins issued by the monetary authority. In India, that is Reserve Bank of India. Okay. So, in our country, Reserve Bank of India issues currency notes, and however, the coins are issued by the government of India. Okay. The supply of money is held. What is the supply of money? The supply of money consists the currency notes and coins with the public. Currency notes and coins with the public, and apart from this, the savings and current savings deposits and current account deposits with the commercial banks also come under this supply of money. Okay. That one thing, the supply of money consists of coins and currency notes with the public. Along with this, saving deposits and current account deposits are also included in the money supply, because so to our current account and our saving accounts, when we give the checks, we can draw the money, isn't it? Okay. So, that is why they comes under this money supply. Okay. Next comes time deposits. Time deposit, we call it as fixed deposit. Okay. Time deposits are the deposits which deposits are fixed for a particular period of time, and it cannot be withdrawn before the stipulated period. Okay. What is this time deposit? Time deposits are the deposits in which money is deposited for a fixed period of time. It may be 3 months, it may be 6 months, or it may be 1 year or 2 years or 5 years or 10 years, like that. Okay. It is fixed for a period of time. Okay. So, here high rate of interest is given. Okay. Because before the stipulated time it cannot be withdrawn. Okay. High rate of interest will be given to the depositor. Okay. In this FD, what we call it fixed deposit, what we call as time deposits. Okay. And this rate of interest is decided by the duration period. Okay. Duration, if you keep your money for a longer period, okay, longer period, you will get more interest. If you keep it for less period, you will get a less interest rate, that is time deposit. Next comes fiat money. So, what is this fiat money? Fiat money is the money which is having not intrinsic value. Okay. Intrinsic value in the sense real value. Okay. Intrinsic value. So, gold coin is having intrinsic value, silver coin is having intrinsic value, because in case of gold coin, the suppose the value, the coin is of rupees 500, the coin is of rupees 500, 500 rupees of worth gold is used to prepare that gold, prepare that coin. Okay. If the silver coin is of 1000 rupees, 1000 rupees silver is used to prepare that coin. Okay. So, that is means it is having intrinsic value, it is having real value, but this fiat money is not having intrinsic value. For example, paper currency. Okay. Just a paper is used, it is okay, 2000 rupees currency in the sense, okay, note, in the sense it is not having real 2000 rupees. Okay. So, but it is legal tender. Why it is legal tender? It is it cannot be refused by anyone, since it is issued by the Reserve Bank. It cannot be refused by anyone. It should be accepted by all for any type of transactions. So, that is why we these what is that we call it as fiat money are legal tender money, okay, legal tender money, since it is accepted by all, even though it is not having intrinsic value, even though it is having not having real value, people should accept it. We are accepting it in any of our transactions. Next comes okay, demand deposits. Okay, demand deposits are the deposits that are payable by the bank on demand from the account holder. When the account holder demands the money, the bank should pay. When the account holder demands the money, okay, the bank should pay. It is payable by the bank on the demand from the account holder. So checks are drawn or on saving or current accounts. Checks can be given from the saving accounts or current account, but they are not legal tender because they can be refused by anyone in any transactions. We can refuse, okay, we need not accept demand deposits there. That is why they are not legal tender, we call it as. Next comes definitions of money. Okay, legal definitions of money, that narrow money and broad money. Okay, narrow money and broad money. So money supply in the economy is a stock like demand money. Okay, like demand for money, money supply is also a stock variable. The total stock of money in circulation among the public at a particular period of time. Total circulation of money at a particular point of time is called money. What is that? Total circulation of money among the people at a particular period of time is called money supply. So according to RBI, RBI publishes 4 types of money. Okay, that is M1, M2, M3 and M4. Okay, so that is M1, M2, M3 and M4. There is the 4 types of money that is published by the Reserve Bank. What is this M1? So M1 is equal to CU plus DD. CU plus DD, that means currency, notes and coins. CU in the sense currency, notes and coins with the public. DD is the demand deposits with the commercial banks. Okay, the commercial banks. CU plus DD. Next comes M2. So M2 is M1. M1 in the sense CU plus DD. So plus saving deposits in the post office. Okay, M2 is equal to M1. M1 in the sense CU plus DD, coins and currency notes plus demand deposits plus savings deposits with the post office. Okay, next comes M3. So what is M3? M2 plus M2 in the sense CU plus DD plus saving deposits with the post office plus net time deposits with the commercial bank. Time deposits in the sense fixed deposits. Okay, so M3 is equal to M1 plus net time deposit in the sense M3 is equal to CU plus DD plus saving deposits plus net deposits of the commercial banks. Okay, so CU refers currency and coins with the public. DD is the demand deposits of the commercial banks. Okay, so we call M1 and M2 are called as narrow money. M1 and M2 are called as narrow money. M3 and M4 are called as broad money. That is the definition of money. Okay, so M1 and M2 are narrow money. M3 and M4 are broad money. So students, M1 is regarded as most liquid form of money. M1 is regarded as most liquid form of money in the sense it is acceptable by all, or in the sense it is easily transacted, okay, easily exchanged with other commodities, can be easily exchanged with other commodities, okay. And M4 is a less liquid, okay, very less liquid form of money. It means it cannot be exchanged with the other commodities very easily, okay. The thing M3 is the most commonly measure of supply of money, measure of supply of money. So M1 is the most liquid form of money, M4 is the very less liquid form of money, and M3 is the most commonly used measure of money supply. So next comes students high powered money. So what is this high powered money? The total liability of the monetary authority of the country. The total liability of the monetary authority of the country in India, that is the Reserve Bank of India, is called high powered money. What is that? The total liability of the monetary authority of the country, that is the Reserve Bank of India, is called high powered money. It consists what? Coins and currency, notes with the public, and the savings, deposits, and the current deposits of the government of India, and the commercial bank with the Reserve Bank of India. Okay. So this high powered money consists of coins and currency notes with the public, plus saving deposits of government of India and saving deposits of commercial bank with the Reserve Bank. Okay. So and that is denoted by M1. Okay. So M1 is equal to CU plus DDs. Okay. That is currency, currency notes and coins with the public, that is demand deposits of the commercial banks. Okay, so that is of high powered money. Okay, next comes demonetization. You all very familiar about that word, demonetization, isn't it? Demonetization of the currency, we call it as. Okay, so demonetization was a new step taken by the government of India on 8th November 2016, isn't it? On 8th November 2016, step was taken by the government of India, isn't it, in the monetary, as a monetary reforms. Why it has taken? It was introduced to tackle the problem of corruption, blank money, terrorism, circulation of fake currency notes in the economy. Okay, so to tackle the problem of corruption, black money, terrorism, circulation of fake money in the economy, this demonetization is introduced. Okay, old currency notes of rupees 500 and rupees 1000 were denominated. 500 notes and rupees 1000 notes were denominated. They were no longer become the legal tender. Okay, legal tender money. Okay, so new currencies of rupees 500 and rupees 2000 were introduced. You know about that time, new currency of rupees 500 and 2000 were introduced, I mean issued. Okay, the public were advised to deposit all their old currencies with the bank in their account till the 31st March 2006 without any declaration. Without any declaration, they could deposit their old currency notes till 31st March 2016, and till 2017 March 31st they could deposit their money with the RBI with the declaration. Okay, that is with the declaration. So that is about the demonetization. So in order to avoid complete breakdown, breakdown in the sense of reduction in the economic activities, decrease in the economic activities, complete breakdown and scarcity of cash, government allowed exchange of rupees 4,000 old currency notes per day, isn't it? You know, maybe further till 12th December 2016 old currency notes were acceptable in post offices, in petrol pumps, and to pay the taxes, and in government hospitals. They used to accept our old currencies till December 2016. Okay, so that is about demonetization. Okay, so what are the positive effects of demonetization? Okay, what is the merits of this demonetization? So it improved the tax system, it improved the tax compliance, as a large number of people were brought under tax ambit. Okay, people could not go away by tax, paying taxes. Okay, so they has to pay the tax. That is why, okay, it improved the tax compliance, as a large number of people were brought in the tax ambit. The savings of individual were channelized. Instead of saving it in the home, they started saving in banks. It increased the resources of commercial banks. It increased the resources of commercial banks, so that the commercial banks could lend more and more loans to the public or institutions. Okay, so demonetization helps in curbing black money, corruption, terrorism. Okay, so fake money, like circulation of fake money, everything was reduced. Okay, it also helps tax administration in another way by shifting the transactions. Okay, so nowadays, you know, the households and the firms have started to shift from cash payment to electronic payment. We are all are paying through electronic payment. We are not paying cash even in small shops also. What is that? Google Pay, Phone Pay. So everything is the available, okay, for a easy transaction. Okay, so that is the positive effect of this demonetization. If you are not having the cash also, you can pay by through the electronic payment. Okay, so that is the, these are the positive effects of demonetization. So what are the negative effects, negative impacts of demonetization? There will be a, there will be a long queues outside the banks and ATM cards. Okay, people were waiting to withdraw money, to save their money, to deposit their old currency in the banks, isn't it? And there was acute shortage of currency notes. Okay, shortage of currency note, because the all the old notes were taken by the government, taken by the Reserve Bank. Okay, shortage of currency notes. The next one is adverse effect on economic activities. Okay, for that period of time, economic activities came down at a larger extent. Okay, larger extent. Okay, no, very it is a very critical time was there, in the sense economic activities fell down like anything. This is about the bad effects of demonetization. Okay, so the students, this is the end of that chapter. I feel that all of you understood the chapter very well. Okay, thank you, students.